Hey y'all, Natalie here, and it is Technique Tuesday for a cherry on top, and today we are playing with the gel plate. So I am just going to show you a few techniques. There's so many things you can do with this. I'm using my Distress Oxide inks, and I like to play around with like different levels of inks. I like to use stamping ink, I like to use alcohol ink, I like to use acrylic paint, all different like weights and thicknesses to see what I will get. And I find this is like a little, from a coloring book, a little piece of paper, and look at how it left the little hearts on there. I love that. But I find that the messier my plate gets after a pull, I tend to like the second or third pulls be more than the first. So that being said, play around with your plate. And if you're not sure what to do, start with those little pieces like I just used right there, like a card base, or like a strip of cardstock that you cut off of a larger piece that you used, just to figure out what you like on your gel plate, but also not to just have a ton of larger prints, like 8.5 by 11 prints lying around the house that you're unsure what to do with. That being said, I am going to show you what to do with these prints. So we're getting there. So right now I'm just playing around on the gel press. Every time I make a pull, I use whatever is on the gel press to add additional paint and things. I don't clean it off. As you could see from the very beginning, it was a little dirty. A lot of times with the acrylic paint, you do need the layers to dry, except for the very top layer that you're using to pull up the paint, if that makes sense. So every layer under this acrylic paint, first top layer that is still wet, was dried before I put this wet layer down. And you can see me later on, I'll be using my heat gun to do that. And it doesn't take long, but that just kind of makes it stick to the plate and pull up really well rather than blend in with the color beneath. That one had a lot of good colors, but it did still kind of blend because I didn't let it dry fully. So you will see me using my heat gun more here to fully dry. And right now I'm just doing abstracts. I'm creating with colors I enjoy. I did have kind of a Valentine's theme in mind, but I did not go into this with like a design specifically in mind. Right now I'm playing around with putting texture paste on the plate. It didn't really work out, I'm not gonna lie, so I wouldn't really recommend that. Maybe through a stencil it would have worked better. I don't know why I wasn't using my stencils at this point, but that was alcohol ink that you just saw me rub onto the plate. And so I am pressing down fairly hard with my brayer, and so it did all come up. But I just wasn't super thrilled with that result. And it's okay. You do have to play around with it. And I can go back and add another layer onto that dried paper and create a whole new look, which I actually think that I end up doing later in this video. So now I have put a really thin layer of ink on there, and then I used that kaleidoscope stamp by Catherine Pooler to create a pattern. And now I'm going to cover it up with a layer of acrylic paint, and I did not put very much acrylic paint on there, and so it dries really quickly and it tends to be a little difficult to pull up in that case. But I was trying to build another layer on top of there, so you can't really see a lot of it. I should have put a little bit more paint. But there I am, just using some scraps of white cardstock that I had laying around my desk, playing around. I had put down, I think I had put down another bit of that coloring sheet, a little like flamingo. And so in a minute when I turn this over, I'll show you like, oh, it showed up a little bit. I didn't pursue that, and I didn't talk about it too much on here because it didn't really work out as much as I wanted. That first one with the hearts worked out, and then I tried it a few more times and it didn't really work out. So we're not going with that technique for this video. You can see it a little bit, but that's not what you're going to learn from me. If you want to learn that, definitely look it up, but it's not something that I have perfected at all, and it seems to be pretty finicky for most people from what I can tell from watching videos. I have changed my color scheme here a little bit. I'm using some navy blue paint, which is really pretty, and then I'm using that same kaleidoscope stamp, and I'm going to use this over I think I do it over a piece. Well, I added that like purpley color alcohol ink, and then I think I put it over a pink piece of paper, so it ends up being really purple and beautiful when I pull up. There you go. So you can see the pink was already on there, an initial layer, and now I'm adding this blue layer, and so it gives us really gorgeous blue and purple. And there will be close-ups at the end of all of these prints that I've pulled off. I'm using the edge of a doily. I think I showed you earlier, I have like those little tools by Ranger, which can add like texture into your paint. Just play around with it. Here I've decided that the lighter colors are what I really love to do. And pulling these next few prints really reminds me of the Art Walk collection by Heidi Swapp. I swear some of the papers in that collection were probably made with a gel press because they're so similar looking. But I really like the very light grunge that I'm getting on these, and I can see using these a lot as either card backgrounds or layering pieces when I create a layout, like layering pieces behind photos and just as like really gorgeous non-patterned papers to help build up a layout. Yeah, I'm really happy with that one. It was that light blue, and then I went over it with some coral colors. So that's my favorite way of using these. And so now the middle of my plate is pretty bare. And so what I was trying to do here was achieve a look where I was just getting a lot of grunge on the outside edges and then leaving the inside bare. Ended up, I had to do it a few different times to achieve that look, but it did end up coming out pretty cool. And again, like one of those papers, it just really reminded me of the Art Walk collection by Heidi Swapp. But when your paint does dry, if you want to pull it up without adding another layer, you can spritz it. Like that's what I'm doing right there. And that will help you pull it off of the plate. So I'm happy with that. That looks fun. So now I'm going to actually go in with a plan in mind. And so I'm thinking of like a camping spread, and I want like a night sky, and then I want like a green bottom. So it's like a landscape, if you will, but it's actually in a traveler's notebook size. So it's going to be in a portrait variation, but a landscape as far as like literally land going into the sky, if that makes sense. So that's, I'm building up the colors here of what I want to use. And then I'm grab this cloud stencil. So I'm going to add that to the sky there. So I just put some white paint through the stencil, and I don't go all the way across that color bit because again, it's a traveler's notebook size page. So I only have that one. I think it's 5 across and 8 down, and I do trim it down. But yeah, I'm happy with that. That pull was fun. And then it left another bit of clouds on there. So that layer is dry now. So to pick it up, I am going to add another layer of paint on top. So I added this like fun taupe color because I was thinking like earth tones kind of. And it does pull up the clouds some, and it gives me a different kind of look than the one that I just pulled up originally. I run over that with my brayer again, and then I start layering up and adding more colors. And this is where I get some really fun pulls that I think that I will end up using as layering bits, maybe even a background paper actually on a 8.5 by 11 page that I am doing for a travel album. I think I added in a little bit of alcohol. Oh no, I did color bursts. I did Cotton Oliver color bursts in like that beautiful green color, and then I spritzed it. But I didn't mix it too much, so I left it kind of streaky, and now I am drying that layer. So you see me doing that with the heat gun. And then I'm going to go over it again with a full color of acrylic paint in order to pick up that color. And it was yellow, and it actually did end up mixing in with some of the color bursts, but that's okay. It actually looks super pretty when I pull it up. I love that right there. That is gorgeous. That yellow with the green bits in it. So I'm super happy with how that turned out. There's still like a big clump of the navy blue. I like that. And then I go back through with this fun stencil by Wild Whisper. I love this stencil. It's one of my favorites. And then I add this like peachy color over the top. So this has like 3 or 4 remnants of pulls on it. And so this is where my favorite pulls come from. Once I have like 3 or 4 grungy layers, when I get those to pull up is my favorite. So this is actually really thin white gesso, but you could do it also with white acrylic paint, but I'm using that as the wet layer to allow me to achieve the look of pulling up all of those layers. And I'm rubbing it really good with my brayer to pull it up. And it pulled up a good portion, and I adore that. You can see the stencil work and all the different colors, but I still am super loving what's left on the plate as well. So I'm gonna just add this pale pink over it. While it's wet, I'm gonna stick my full sheet down and pull it up, and I get this is my favorite one, I think, a really cool layer. And it wasn't pulling up everything I wanted, so I stuck it back down real quick and gave it a really good hard roll. Look at that. I'd buy that carpet. Would you buy that carpet? I want that on a carpet in my house. But I still have more. Wait, there's more. There's still more ink on the thing. And you really could just keep on going, because like I said, I've seen a lot of videos where people don't clean their plate. But actually, I just decided to pull all the rest of this off with card bases. So I will just have some like pre-made backgrounds, and then you literally could just stamp on them and turn them into cards so quickly. And it looks like you did all this work making mixed media backgrounds for your greeting cards. So that's what I'm using there, just pre-made little smaller sheets that will be used as card backgrounds. And so now I'm going to try to do another pull on that hot pink one, because it just wasn't variegated enough. It was kind of just was just mostly pink. So I decided to use this heart stencil. And I actually really love this, and I have a project in the works right now with this. So I am going to show you later in this video one layout that I made with one of these pulls, but then I'm going to try throughout the month to use some of these other ones, just so you can understand that what to do with these. I've had a lot of people say, like, I make all these prints and they're pretty, but I don't know what to do with them afterwards. And so I do want you to utilize these, because you pull them and they're beautiful, and they shouldn't just sit on your shelf. They should be used. So I do want to show you how I incorporate them into my layouts or other ways around my scrapbook. Now I'm just trying to create another like grungy look where it's just like kind of solid in the middle and then grunge on the edge. That was like my thought process behind just doing that stencil around the edges. I don't know that this one turns out like perfectly as it was in my head, but that's okay. It lightened up that page. So now I'm going to get to work on the scrapbook page. So I have that one that I showed you earlier that I went with the idea in mind. And I'm going to use this tree silhouette stencil by Tim Holtz. And I'm going to use this new glimmer machine. I got this for Christmas as a gift. And it adds foil to your projects. So it's perfect for things like this traveler notebook size page. So I'm going to, you can, and you don't have to have the foil plates. You can use your die. So this is just a normal cutting die. But I'm going to use it to foil the really thin outlined image of the trees onto my background, and just as like a base, and then I'm going to layer up with some die cuts of the same image. You'll see what I mean exactly here in a moment, but this is a really fun little thing. So you put the foil down with the shiny side on the die, and then you perfect your sandwich. There's a little guide that tells you what exactly things to do with it, and then you hit the timer. I fast forwarded. And then you slide that out and you run it through your manual die cut machine, and it works with a few different ones. I have the Sizzix Big Shot, and it works fine with that. And then there you have it. So it comes with this cool little tool that you pick it up because it's hot. You don't want to burn your hands. So I'm going to move that out of the way, and then I'm going to show you. You just pull the foil up, and I have pretty green foiled trees. I love that. It's so fun. I have a few more foil plates on the way from Cherry on Top, and I can't wait to use them more. So I die cut the trees in a few different colors of cardstock, And I'm just going to layer them up here, and I'm going to kind of run them off the page on some sides a little bit, because I do want the trees, I don't want them to all be uniform, if you know what I mean. I want them to peek out from around one another. So I'm going to use these Heidi Swap travel themed or outdoor themed stamps. I think they're actually national park themed because there's a national park sign. So I'm going to stick down those die cuts first, but then I'm going to use the Heidi Swap stamps down below with some white heat embossing. So that's why I like at the white at the top. And then I use that white layer of trees, and it's just going to barely peek out. But then I'll have the white heat embossing at the bottom, so it'll give like 3 of that element on the page and create some cohesion. But that's the main photo that's going to be on the other side. I'm not going to do much with that on screen because it's just a full page photo. But this is the fun like title page on the other side. So I'm stamping upside down just so you can see here, and that was the best way to fit it into the stamping platform. For the trees, I end up not needing the stamping platform, but for the words, I did want to make sure that I stamped it twice with the Versamark to get a really crisp, clean, embossed image. So I'm inking it up twice here, and then I go in with my stamping bug and run over it to make sure I get a lot of good pressure down. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp a few different ways with those little groups of trees. So I like that little tree stamp because it just really went well with the tree die and the whole vibe of it all. As a picture of my family and I on a camping trip. We were like under these really big arch rocks, and it was super cool. And the word says miles away, and it's like got little mountains. Yeah, we're gonna heat emboss that. Super like satisfying to watch that every time. And then I just decided to go in with that tree stamp and just fill it all in and do like a whole grove of trees around the title stamp, if you will. And then off screen, I did add a little like tag at the corner of my photo because I like to add tags when I have a full page photo so that people, because they're outside the page protector, and so that people don't get their little fingerprints all over my photos. But I'll do that off screen, but you will see it in the final photos. But yeah, I had a lot of fun playing around with this gel press, and it's fun to either do abstract prints or go in with a plan in mind, like I did with this one with the landscape design in the clouds, and kind of it turned out really well like I had in mind. So you can take either approach, but I hope you will try out a gel press, play around with it. There's so much you can do. If you get the little shaped ones, you could just do fun little vignettes of cool backgrounds and then stamp on top of them. There's so many fun things. That's next on my list to buy, I think. So there you have it. There's the final photos, and they'll also be over on the blog today, and I'll post them in my gallery as well. I thank you guys for watching, and make sure to hop over to see what's new in the Cherry on Top shop. Bye, y'all.